there is a sort of general feeling in rock, that by the time that Thin Lizzy got to Thunder and Lightning, god damn, it's so exciting, they'd really cooked their goose. You know, in that they had cooked their own goose. Not that their goose was cooked. And there's a feeling that that was, with John Sykes, of course, was a rather more heavy metal album than others had been, and consequently wasn't really the kind of album that needs to be or should be ballyhooed, because they made a lot better albums than that. And actually, with John Sykes, they weren't the same band. No, I agree with that. They were a slightly different band. And that new album wasn't really up to standard. I don't agree. I think it's a different kind of band, and I think it's a different kind of album, and I think it is a more metallic offer. But I don't think their goose had been cooked. And the example that I'm going to use for that, for the rebuttal, not the abuttal, that's wrong, Steve. The rebuttal is this Sight and Sound, BBC TV, folks, Sight and Sound show from 1983. It is John Sykes' first show with them. And for considering that, they're bloody good. Cameron seems to love Brian Downey, by the way. Nice to see him, because what an underrated drummer he is. Lays that groove down beautifully. Now, for those people who think, well, Thunder and Lightning was not really a great album, and the band thought that too, and there is some people who think that, this will blow that out of the water. They start with Jailbreak. Tonight there's going to be a jailbreak somewhere in this town. It'll be the jail, Phil. That's where it'll be, yeah. Phil does mess around with the delivery, but it's beautifully done. I mean, one thing about this show is that they do seem a smaller band. I mean, they don't dictate. Well, I suppose they do, don't they? I was going to say they don't dictate what kind of size of stage they're on. I don't know whether or not Sight and Sound went, you come here and you do a show here, or whether it was on their tour, the Thunder and Lightning tour. I presume not, because this is the first time they've worked with Sykesy, who, of course, we sadly lost fairly recently. So I don't know that, but they do look like a smaller unit. You know, we've all seen the Robertson and Gary Moore and Scott Gorham years, and Scott with the newly shorn locks and all of that. They don't seem like the same band. They don't seem like as big a band. They are a bit of a smaller offer. They seem a little bit denuded. Maybe that's what people are referring to, but I love the way that Jailbreak do is really pushed. It's more like do. They're really pushing it. It's great. And one thing you do get here is that we've got Cold Sweat, Sun Goes Down, with those Darren Wharton keys, which I thought were hidden, and then suddenly there he is, right in the gods. He's right at the back. It's good guy, Light and Shade in that, Holy War, with those synths under the riff. So, you know, got all that. And to start with Jailbreak, but then to say, well, here we've got several tracks from the new album, that shows that they really thought those tracks stood up. To put them all together, that shows that, well, we're just going to play them all together. It's indicative, isn't it? I think it is. If you want, come back at me on this. But the crowd are a bit quiet when you get to The Sun Goes Down. Because crowds don't always like, this is a new one, this is a new one, here's another new one. They want it mixed up, don't they? Apart from the front couple of rows, crowd are a bit quiet, although they are enjoying it and shouting and screaming and all that afterwards. Boys Are Back in Town sounds really great. And I've seen the first bit of this, apparently, or I think, there is an interval and then they come back on, because that's what Phil says before he goes. One thing you don't get from Mr. Linnert is you don't get that sort of flashing eyes and, you know, that kind of, well, it's dangerous and you could sleep with each and every one of us here, but you're going to give us all a good time, aren't you? You don't get that sort of rapscallion feel with him. It is a bit quieter and them sort of feeling their way a bit. And maybe people who say, well, you know, it was a bit all over by then. I don't believe it was. But maybe that feeling was kind of getting to them that, well, maybe this isn't going to carry on very much longer. Cold Sweat is great, by the way. Do 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 do. It's great. I've got a whole month's wages. I haven't seen that much in ages. I could spend it in stages or move out to Las Vegas. Come on! It's great. Good guitaring in that. They really work well together, actually. They don't throw... I mean, I've seen live stuff from this period, and they really... I mean, Sykes in particular settled into that role and really threw some good shapes. Doesn't particularly on this one, but then he's just settling into the band, isn't he? And it just shows that this band are great even when they're not at their peak. And it also shows that they really regarded Thunder and Lightning, God damn, it's so exciting, as something a bit special. I regard it as something a bit special as well, but I know among Thin Lizzy fans and maybe even rock fans that I'm in the minority, but I frequently am. Ta-ta.